Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Back again like we never left. With my guy, Quakes. How you doing?
I'm not too bad, brother. I'm not too bad. I'm surviving. I'm thriving. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Today, we've got the pleasure of being joined by broadcaster and founder of cultural platform Blakademik Jordan Jarrett-Bryan. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, Jamie. Nice to meet you. And Quaker, which is it? Are you thriving or surviving? Which one? You can't be both.
I'm doing a bit of both. It's a bit of Hover's best of both. I'm thriving at times, and then I'm surviving when it comes to following my football team, Chelsea, man, because that's all we're doing right now. So that's why I'm surviving. But I'm hanging in there.
All right. I hear you.
So I'll be honest. So some of the conversations we have, Quakes, I'm not sure you're surviving, my guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you sound like you're at death's door. All right.
Yeah, man. It's, tough time being a Chelsea fan. But what, 2 decades of success? You got to go through the peaks and the troughs of football, man.
Can you see this? It's the world's smallest violin. The smallest violin ever in the world. Yeah, that's what it is. All right.
Oh God, no sympathy for Chelsea fans. I get it.
We've brought Jordan on today to talk about Arsenal. We're going to talk all things Arsenal, of how this season's gone, surmise the season, and just tell us your thoughts, Jordan. What are you thinking? You've just finished 5th in the Premier League, Arsenal fan. Come on.
So I think the big discussion amongst the Arsenal fan base is whether 5th is success or not. Is it progress or is it not good enough? And this all seems to be predicated on whether you believe that it's right that a team should change its expectations and targets in accordance to how a season plays out. Or should you stick to what you said at the start and then judge it by the end of what you said at the start of the season? So, and no Arsenal fan predicted top 4 at the start of the season. Anyone that says they did is a liar. Everybody said where we were 8th, the target needs to be back into Europe in terms of placing between 5th and 7th. That was the target. 5th and 7th is where Arsenal should be. Now, Man United hilariously imploded all season. Spurs for half a season didn't turn up. Their main man Kane was sulking about not getting a move. And West Ham, I think their squad and focus was clearly on Europe. And I believe rightfully so. Leicester City also have had a really weird season. So that's 4 of your rivals, really, that have all left the gangway open for you to take advantage of. Arsenal, my view is that it's disappointing to finish 5th, but merely because of the way it happened. If Arsenal would have been 7th up until March and finished 5th, the narrative would be very, very different. But because Arsenal had it in their hands and blew it, and Arsenal did blow it, there's no two ways about that. With 2 games to go, Arsenal had the chance to get 4th, and they just weren't good enough. Fair play to Spurs. Best team finishes 4th. They finished 4th in the end. But because the narrative is that we had it in our hands and we blew it, it's spun as a negative season. Now, if you're an Arsenal fan that believes that we're the Arsenal, we should be, 4th should be the minimum. We should be getting Champions Leagues and Champions. We're big Arsenal. My thing is this. I respond by saying this, guys. If you're saying Arsenal should be top 4, that in itself a statement is fine. But what I respond by saying is, okay, I'll ask you two guys. The start of the season, should Man City be top 4?
Yep.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Should Liverpool be top 4?
Yep.
Yeah.
Should Chelsea be top 4?
Without a doubt.
No, without a doubt. But yeah, yes.
The start of the season, European champions, and spend £100 million on a striker. Chelsea should be top 4 minimum, right?
Yeah.
Should Man United be top 4?
100. And Jordan, this is where I'm going to just interject. This is where I agree with you completely. A team, and that's why when Man United fans, I feel like it's almost like picking on a little brother. What Man United fans can't take at the moment is that their 2 biggest rivals in City and Liverpool are thriving, and they have nothing to say. So where you've got that pre-existing rivalry of them that stems from the Wenger and Fergie days, Man United fans have the cheek, after signing Jadon Sancho, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Rafael Varane, to say that Arsenal have bottled it. Arsenal, like you say, had no expectation of finishing the top 4. Granted, you had no European football, so that was a bit of a benefit, but there was no expectation for Arsenal to finish in the top 4. What I will say, though, is that you do have to realign expectations when the season unfolds. And when you've got a Thursday night game against Spurs that the whole country is watching because nobody else is playing football, and you lose 3-0 to your biggest rivals in the biggest game of the season, and then you have the Monday night football game again when everybody's watching it, and you take on Newcastle and you barely even show up, I can understand why some rival fans will use that as an opportunity to say that Arsenal bottled it, even though your expectations were not to finish in the top 4.
I agree. I guess I would ask: is it correct though that you align your expectations during the season, or at the start? Because look at business. If in any business, you set your targets the financial year. We want to earn 100K this year. Now, whatever happens during that year, at the end of the financial year, in business, they don't say, "Oh yeah, but that and that happened. You should have earned more than 100K." The question is, did you hit your target? And I'm trying to apply a similar school of thought to football. At the start of the season, the target was back into Europe between 5th and 7th. That's a target. Below 7th is a failure. Above 5th is overachieving. But I agree with you. When you've done so much work to kind of get into a position whereby it's in your hands, and top 4 with 2 games to go is there, you have to look at it as a bottle job. I'm not going to defend that at all. But I think the idea that we should be coming 5th, I ask people, there are 4 teams with bigger budgets than us and better managers, okay, bar Solskjaer, that should be finishing 4th. So in basic maths, 5 into 4 doesn't go. So if we all agree that those 4 teams are named should get top 4, well, then you can't tell me that Arsenal should as well then, because, as I said, 5 into 4, basic maths. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And what I'll say before I let Jamie go on this one is that you touched on it there. It's the managerial aspect of it. I've been screaming for the last year or two to anybody that will listen that football has gone away from being a player-driven game to being a manager game. It's a game dictated by managers. It's a game dictated by philosophies. It's a game dictated by systems. And if you look at the top 4 teams in this country, they've got 4 of the best managers in the world. You look at Jurgen Klopp, you look at Pep Guardiola, you look at Thomas Tuchel, and you look at Antonio Conte. And I feel like that was the difference. And again, I don't want to shoot Arsenal down because Arteta's done a great job. You guys won the FA Cup against us in the final 2 years ago, so you're on the right track and you see the development of the young players. But my feeling is Arteta's the man before the man. And when we had Frank Lampard in charge at Chelsea, I was all for giving Frank Lampard a chance and he was doing a great job. When we got rid of him, I thought it was a little bit too early. But as soon as Thomas Tuchel came through the door and started managing the side, I noticed a difference straight away. And I feel like Arteta is the best man to kind of get the best out of these young players at the moment. But as things develop and Arsenal maybe start to have higher ambitions and higher goals, you might have to bring in a manager that's maybe more well-versed in winning the biggest trophies and competing at the highest level.
I agree. Interesting what Jamie, what you think about.
Yeah, so I agree. Firstly, with what you said, Jordan, in terms of you in August, if someone offers you 5th in the table, like you say, that was what your aspirations were. You take their hand. You take that without a doubt. But I think with the way that the season is painted out, and it essentially being in your hands, you go away to Newcastle, you win that game, you've established top 4 essentially. I think the way that the season went out, and has played out as a result, you do have to look at aspects of it being a failure. And to draw on your point, talking about the top 6 teams, they do all have more established managers, and I think the Arsenal's form against those teams reflect that. You have the worst form against the big 6 out of the big 6. You've garnered less points than the rest of those teams, and I think that's an example of where, on too many occasions, Arteta has been shown to be tactically quite inept. And I don't mean to be too damning of that, but when you have the season when you're on the precipice of overachieving and you're going to finish 4th in the table, it's a great season, but you drop results like losing like the way you did to Newcastle. I think this, like Quaker said, he might be the man before the man. But just to as I said, prior to recording, I don't want to be part of an Arsenal damnation, because I think there are a host of positives that we can say. And yesterday I was fortunate enough to be at the Emirates, first time going there, incredible stadium first and foremost. And I thought the way that you were playing yesterday, although it was against one of the worst Everton sides I've ever seen, and if you want to talk about fraud managers,
who were hungover.
Yeah,
well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. But you want to talk about fraud managers at this point. Frank Lampard has got to be coming into that conversation at some point soon, because I'm sorry, Everton are one of the worst sides I've ever seen, right? Genuinely, they look like they give Norwich a run for their money at the moment, So Anyway, being at Arsenal yesterday was incredible. I think like you've got some really, really good players in your hands, but players like, like success stories that have come out of this season. People like Martin Odegaard, what a player he is. I know he had like some strong form in Spain that, led to his move to London, but seeing him on the ball yesterday, he looks like a very high IQ player. It's the first time I'm seeing him in person, so to speak. So there are a bunch of benefits. And I think, sometimes you have to temper your expectations. It has been a shame in many regards on the outside for Arsenal in terms of, you have bottled that fourth spot, but, you've hit your goals and now's a chance to really start to build and facilitate the weaker areas in your squad, So from an outside perspective, I look at Arsenal and think, you've done relatively well, but, how, where the ceiling is in regards to with Arteta is the question, in my opinion, I'd say.
So just three, I know you guys are short on time, so just three brief things to come back on both what you said. First of all, Keku, regarding managers being more important now than ever. I think that players will still always be the main component of whether a team is successful or not. I believe that. However, where I agree with you is that I think we're in an era now whereby the importance of a good manager is elevated. I'm an Arteta fan. I wanted him in when Wenger left. I wanted him in before Unai Emery came in because I heard good things about him. I've ridden for Arteta from day. However, he's not my friend, my brother, my dad, my brethren. I've got no tie to this man. So I can look at it coldly. And the cold question is, next season, can Mikel Arteta get Arsenal top four? Can he come above Klopp or Tuchel or Conte or Guardiola? Never mind the anomaly that's going to be Ten Hag. There's four managers at least that I don't think, even with recruitments, that he'll come above. So the best case for Arsenal next year, in my opinion, is fifth. And for me, the target next year for Arsenal needs to be minimum fourth. So he has to punch above his weight and overachieve to get to where I think we should be aiming. And I don't think, as much as I'm a fan of his, I don't think he's the guy to do that. Second thing, there's a level of entitlement, I think, about entitlement from the Arsenal fan base. And I feel uncomfortable saying that because we pay the most money to watch our team than any other fan in the world. And for 15 years, minimum, we have not been competitive in the league or in Europe. So I get why people say, Arsenal fans say, look, we pay a lot of money. We should be competing. We should have the best strikers and the best. I get that. But equally, the reality is that Arsenal are not that club anymore. It's not about damming down expectations. It's not about lowering standard. It's about being realistic. We're up against two clubs that are funded by nations. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, one's funded by a nation and one was funded by an oligarch. Never mind the fact that Klopp is a freak. Do you know what I mean? And Conte, for me, is one of the top three managers in world football. So we have to be realistic. We're asking a manager to overperform. So people say, okay, replace Arteta. Who do you get that's better than Arteta that can compete with those four managers? I think in this league, we have the four best managers in the world. So it's not about lowering standards or being unambitious. It's about being realistic and gradually progressing. And the third point was going to be, there are, I think, some, and I'm clutching, there are some positive levels of positivity. The young players have kicked on a little bit. Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, Saka, they've all gone up for me a notch. That's important. The connection between the fan base and the club this year has been the best it's been for a long time. The atmosphere at the Emirates, and especially away games, has been so much more enjoyable than it has been in previous years. That's a positive. The signings we've made, whilst not good enough ultimately to get us top four, apart from Tavares, have all worked out. It's very rare you bring in 5 signings and 5 all work out. I think all 5 of our signings have had good first seasons in the Prem / at Arsenal. So we've scored some good goals this year. I mean, it's hard to remember. It's easy to kind of remember the last couple of months where it's been really bad. But there was back in October, November, December, we scored some good goals, played some good football. So that's been enjoyable. And at a time when under Emery and under Wenger, we played some horrible football. So there are sprinklings of things to kind of cling on to kind of say that it's not been an entirely bad year. It just feels disappointing because where we were, we fell off, and the team that surpassed us is our biggest rival.
What I'd say as well, just before we move on, because you touched on there the positive shoots of or positivity in this season.
And I'm clutching. Granted, I'm clutching. I'm clutching a little bit.
But what is football without hope? Do you know what I mean? As a fan, you've got to have hope and you've got to look for the promising aspects of your season. Just to counter your point about football, maybe, because again, this is the B that I've got on my bonnet, so I'm going to carry on. In terms of football maybe being a player's sport, you think maybe players will always be the predominant factor in football. I feel like Arsenal are the prime example of why that isn't the case. You got rid of Ozil and you got rid of Aubameyang and you got better, because objectively, Aubameyang is one of the best strikers in the world. Like, we are hearing narratives of Erling Haaland, who again is one of the best strikers in the world, and people are asking questions like, will he fit into Pep's system? That was never a question back in the day. It was like, yo, this guy scores goals. Of course he'll fit in the system. People are asking questions, Chelsea fans, is Romelu Lukaku a Tuchel player? It's like, what, a guy who scores goals? How can that not be a manager's player? And I feel like football's become very, very specific in terms of what managers require from certain types of players. And we see that.
So you're saying that if Arsenal had a better manager, they get fourth?
Yeah, I think that Conte got Spurs over the line because of his level of expertise as a manager. Because really, truly, the Spurs team, if you look at the players that have come in and performed well, in Eric Dyer, who we thought was done, and Ben Davies, who we thought was done, he got the maximum out of players who maybe, granted, Spurs have got two of the best attackers in the league, but there are components and parts of that side that are not up to standard, and I think Conte managed to get them over the line. But again, we could deliberate on this all day. One thing I did want to ask, and one thing I think we should do in this series, Jamie, when we're talking to fans of these teams, is I'm going to offer you a trade, and I want you to disregard football transfers. I want you to disregard like the money aspect of it. I'm just talking about personnel. So I'm going to offer you a trade for Arsenal in terms of who I think you may need and who you might be able to get rid of, and you let me know if you would take that trade.
Go for it.
So Gabriel Jesus, a man who's linked with Arsenal. A man who I think Arsenal could really do with. You need somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net on a consistent basis. Lacazette hasn't cut it. But the trade would be, you have to give Man City Kieran Tierney, a man who is a great player, but has been injured a lot this season. You don't know you can rely on him. So forget finances. If Man City were to offer you today a trade, Kieran Tierney for Gabriel Jesus, are you taking that trade?
100%.
Fair enough. And what's the reason why?
I think we're bringing in a player that I think we need, but letting go of a player that is amazing but can't play. I mean, Kieran Tierney, bar Saka, I would say, I think is probably our best player. I think he's our best player in the club. And maybe I'm a Tomiyasu fan. Tomiyasu is my favourite player, but I think in terms of ability, I think bar Saka, Tierney's the best football player at the club. But I've said this for years. I don't care how good you are. If you can't play, it means nothing. Especially a left back.
Yeah.
Left back, fullbacks have to play 35 out of 38 games a season. Come on. What's going on? You can't, you need your defenders to be able to rely on them, that they're going to be at least fit. They might be crap, poor form, but I love Tierney. He would be my captain choice. But the reality is he can't play more than 10 games in a row. What are we doing?
Yeah. I threw this question out to somebody in the office who's an Arsenal fan, and he refused the offer, which I can understand. But like you say, the best ability is availability, and Kieran Tierney is just not available. So
I like that one. I like that one. The best ability is availability. I'm going to use that one.
You can tell he's been sitting on that. He's been sitting on that.
I love it.
Yeah. Do you know, that's an interesting trade. From the outside looking in, Gabriel Jesus, he's one of many at Man City. He could come to Arsenal and be a star, and could be much needed with, I know we said disregard transfer and all that, but, this summer's going to be a very important summer for you guys with, potentially losing Lacazette, Nketiah, some players like, running out their contracts. So you are going to need to replace them with someone. So is Gabriel Jesus that guy?
And early, Jamie, my big thing is I've got a list of players who I would like to come in this summer. But for me, I don't almost care who we bring in. What I do care about is get them in early. Mm-hmm. Just get them. The season's done now. For me, a smart club like City, like Liverpool, their transfers this summer were tied up months ago. The negotiation, the contracts, the agreements were all done. They're all done. The season finishes, things are signed. It's not about Arsenal are now bidding for players. Why are you only now bidding for players? You know who you need. That should have been done in January, February, March. And then you say, okay, these are our players if we get top 4. These are our players if we miss out on top 4. But either way, they're all pretty much tied up and done and agreed. So by the time we know where we're going to finish, Champions League or Europa League, it's only a question then of sign the contract. And that's my frustration. Gabriel has just been linked for a while. I've got a feeling his agent is using us to get him a better move somewhere else. I'm worried about that. But all the rumours are that he wants to come to us. So benefit of the doubt, fair enough. But season's done now. Get it done. That deal should be wrapped up in the next week. Next week.
Yeah.
Before, you know what I mean?
Couldn't agree more. And again, he's a man that will solve all of Arsenal's problems, in my opinion.
All of Arsenal's problems.
There are all, but it will solve a lot of our problems. One of our big issues is goal creation. We don't create enough chances. And I think for me, if you're going to bring in a Gabriel Jesus, I think you've got a finisher. But one of our big issues is Arsenal have to play a 9 out of 10 to win games. All the games we've won this year, we've been very, very good. We can't rely on that that's not sustainable. So we need players, I think, that can create multiple chances. So you're missing lots, but you're getting lots of chances. Our creation chance is not particularly good. So I think it will solve a problem. It'll be a finisher. But I also think we need some midfielders. I think we need 2 fullbacks. And I think we need a goal creator as well.
And I mean, just before we do wrap, Jordan, I think you've nailed a lot of things, but there is one other thing that I think is wrong with Arsenal. And my one take-home point from the Emirates yesterday is that you guys are singing 49 undefeated. You're talking about a season in 2004. The amount of times
it's all we've got to hang on to, David.
The amount of times that came out, 49 undefeated. You're talking about a season in 2004. What are we doing here?
Bro, I was learning to walk and see and eat at those times. Like, I was a young pup, way more fresh-faced than I am right now.
That's unbelievable. But yeah, Jordan, we really appreciate you coming on today, mate. Where can people find you on socials?
I'm on social. I'm on Twitter _Jordan J Bryan. On Instagram, it's my full name, Jordan Jarrett-Bryan. And check out my platform, Blakademik. We're on socials, The Blakademik, on Facebook, Instagram, and also Twitter. So check me out.
Nice one. I'll put all the links in the descriptions for everyone to go and check that out. So make sure you do, guys. In the meantime, catch us next time, Quakes. Where can they find us?
You can find us on Twitter. It's at WTF Podcast 90. We're on Instagram. Just search We Talk Football Podcast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We are gradually growing. We're back with more of these kind of videos throughout the week as well. So check us out, and we'll be back with more videos very, very soon.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next time.